This is our nerve impulse knee experiment lab video. In the lab, we hit the knee and recorded the results. Then we hit the knee again and tried to stop the knee from jerking. We did this on both sides with 2 group members and recorded observations in our lab notebook. A stimulus is detected by a receptor cell and then synapses with a sensory neuron. The sensory neuron carries the impulse from a stimulus to the central nervous system, which is the brain or the spinal cord. It synapses with an interneuron. Then the interneuron synapses with a motor neuron that carries the impulse to an effector, like a muscle, which responds by contracting. The central nervous system receives information from the skin, joints, and muscles of your body through your spinal cord. It also carries nerves that control all movement. The most complicated part of your nervous system is your brain. It receives information directly from your ears, eyes, nose, and mouth via the spinal cord. It uses the information gathered to help you react, remember, think, plan, and to send out appropriate instructions to your body. The peripheral nervous system controls your muscles and joints and sends all the information from your senses back to your brain. It is located under the voluntary control, which is the nerves that carry instructions from your brain to your limbs. Other parts of the peripheral nervous system that is automatically controlled by the brain is called the autonomic nervous system. When a nerve impulse reaches the synapse at the end of a neuron, it triggers the neuron to release a chemical neurotransmitter that drifts across the gap between the 2 neurons. Once it reaches the other side, it fits into a receptor on the surface of the target neuron. The docking process converts the chemical signal back into an electric nerve impulse.
The acetylcholine made in the presynaptic neuron of the neuromuscular junction makes the muscle contract as a reaction to the external stimuli.
The sensory neuron is much like the motor neuron, except the sensory neuron is a nerve cell that transmits impulses to the central nervous system. It receives information based on touch, taste, sound, sight, or pain, while a motor neuron is a nerve cell that transmits direction to muscles and organs from the central nervous system to perform some function.
Interneurons are also known as relay neurons. They relay messages from the sensory neuron to the motor neuron. It makes up the brain and spinal cord. They are usually much smaller cells with many interconnections.
The motor neuron is a nerve cell forming part of a pathway along which passes from the brain or spinal cord to a muscle or gland. There are 3 parts to the neuron: the cell body, the axons, and the dendrites. The cell body contains the nucleus, providing proteins for the axons and the dendrites. The axon passes the electrical impulses to the dendrites. The dendrites receives inputs from other neurons and projects the electrical pulse. The sensory neuron is much like the motor neuron, except the sensory neuron is a nerve cell that transmits impulses to the central nervous system. It receives information based on touch, taste, sound, sight, or pain, while a motor neuron is a nerve cell that transmits direction to muscles and organs from the central nervous system to perform some function. Muscle spindles are the sensory receptors within the belly of the muscle that primarily detects changes in the length of this muscle. Muscle spindles are collections of 6 to 8 specialized muscle fibers that are located within the muscle mass itself. While stretching the muscle spindle, an impulse is immediately sent to the spinal cord and a response to contract the muscle is received, for protecting it from being pulled forcefully or beyond the normal range. The intrafusal fibers detect this. The muscle fiber that allows the muscle to work are termed extrafusal fibers. The effector is an organ or cell that reacts in response to a stimulus. In this case, it's the quadriceps femoris.